That's why when it come down to these topics, I talk about it from a coaching perspective. Because there are millions of people I'm going to have to coach through the fact of them having kids. I have to coach kids that basically essentially have issues with their parents. And that's why there's such a disconnect between parents and kids nowadays, because most of these girls and dudes are having children while they are children. So, like Tupac said, Brenda's got a baby. So, a lot of times, having an identity and being married and having children, you don't have one. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but when you are dating other people, somebody gonna lose their identity. When you have children, as a mother, you're gonna lose your identity because you no longer have a name. It's just like when you say the word black, for example. When you start calling yourself black, you're calling yourself nothing. So it's no different when you say mom, dad. Let me give you an example. There's a baby and his name is Zaza, right? And he calls his dad his name, which is Larry. He calls him Larry because he's heard his mom and grandma and all them call him Larry. So he will not call this man daddy. He calls him Larry. Because that really is who he is, but he wants him to call him daddy. But what people don't understand, when people call you every other name, you've lost your identity, because your identity is your name. It's just like when my son called me by my name. And I looked at him, I said, don't you ever call me by my name unless somebody asks you what my name is. So when the lady said at the school, she said, what is your mom's name? Mommy? And he did what he was supposed to do. I wasn't mad at it because he was technically doing what I told him to do. I said, what is my name? He said, oh, her name is such and such. But yeah. But yeah, you do lose your identity when you start becoming friends with people. You do lose your identity when you start family and all this other stuff. You lose your identity. The only time you have your identity is when you are single. The only time you have your identity is when you build something that is of your own. The only time you have your identity is if you're in a partnership. But your kids, you're going to lose your identity because you're no longer anybody else except mom and how you treat them. That's it. So, that's the one thing I learned in healing and recovery is if I choose to bring people into my world, then my identity has to be intact. But the problem is, because people make assumptions about you, even the people closest to you, you have no identity. Your identity is only when you're single. So the reason why there are so many women that want to be single, don't want no kids, is because of their identity. Just like there are a lot of men out here that do not want to have children, and they don't. They have no intentions of having kids. But that's because, again, their identity. So a lot of people are trying to build some. Not to say later on down the line they don't want kids. But now people don't want kids in their 20s. I'm not mad at that. I'm not. Most people don't want to get married until they're financially stable. I'm not mad at that. But don't start dating until that's really what you want to do. Don't waste somebody's time that you really don't want to deal with, you really don't want to be around. Don't waste that person's time, because that's not fair to them. And certainly you in the wrong for that. And a lot of people have wasted a lot of people's time when they could have been doing something else, being around them people, stuff like that. Now, your family is a whole different entity. You can't do nothing about that because you were born into that. But when it comes to your friends and when it comes to your significant others, you don't have to accept that, because you don't. These are not your parents. These are everyday people that just so happen to be in your life. So you have to have non-negotiables. Now, with your parents, it's kind of hard to have those non-negotiables because they're your parents. And in the Bible, it does say to honor thy mother and thy father. But then there's also another scripture in there about parents when it comes to their kids. So, once you deal with your family issues and you deal with those boundaries and those non-negotiables, then everybody else will be easier when it comes to non-negotiables. Because now you can say, look, these are my non-negotiables. That's just it on that. I'm not negotiating on it. That's just it. And the person can either accept it or not. If they don't, then hey, you didn't waste time. So, like I said, the fact that people are so much pushing this agenda about marriage and pushing this agenda about people being in relationships, all in all, it ain't worth it when one person is lowering themselves and the other person is benefiting off that person lowering themselves. It doesn't work when you got people being Captain Save-A-Hoes, Build-A-Bears, Build-A-Dolls, seat fillers, and people pleasers. It don't work. And the bottom line is going to be a lot of people sitting in my office or talking to me on Zoom, talking about well, why were you a people pleaser? Why were you a seat filler? Because you were born that way. Post-traumatic slave disorder. A lot of y'all do not want a spouse. You do not want a partner. You want a mommy. You want a daddy. That is what you want. Y'all are not doing these marriages the way God said to do these marriages. You just ain't. Y'all up here lying. At the end of the day, like I said, through my own healing recovery and 51 years of raising this year a 30-year-old child with autism, I can tell you, it ain't easy raising a child with a disability. It is not. So imagine having a child that's a normal child. Y'all got it way more easier than people who got disabilities, but hey, that's another conversation for another day. All I will say is, this is why a lot of people are abusing their children. Their children are being bullied. Like I said, a lot of stuff that go on is because of what go on at home. And like I said, a lot of parents are not really spending time with their kids. Most of these kids now got tablets. They got something in their hands and they cannot let go of them. Try taking a tablet from a child and see what happens and see how much they have a fit when you take it. Because the first thing they do is give these kids electronics. It used to be they gave these children a bottle and ended up overfeeding them, which is why most of these kids are overweight, because y'all overfeeding these kids. Not understanding these kids only got their stomachs are but so small. They don't need all of that, what y'all be thinking that they need. So, but y'all be overfeeding these kids. And like I said, it's sad of everything that's going on. But with everything that's going on right now, I am not mad at these kids not having babies. I am not mad at women saying, I'm not having babies right now. I'm not mad at couples right now saying they're not having babies. I'm not mad because a lot of these people that are about to have these babies, y'all going to be seeing them the same token. Just like what happened with Desmond and Chrissy. Same thing. Y'all going to see that same thing in a lot of marriages. Because I'm telling you, today's society, having babies and relationships ain't going to work. It's too much temptation. It's too much spiritual stuff out here. That ain't right. It's too many people that have no respect and no boundaries. And there are a lot of men out here feeding into temptation. A lot of women out here feeding into temptation. A lot of people, yes, in the beginning, they may have wanted the marriage, but they don't want it now. A lot of people will date and marry somebody just because you want them to build them and somebody else reaps the benefits of it. A lot of y'all are quick to get rid of the people that helped you get there. A lot of y'all are quick to, when you get what you want, dump that person like it's nothing. And then lose everything and then go back to that person like that person just supposed to be like, okay, no. A lot of y'all just want somebody to build somebody. Y'all want somebody to build you. You want somebody just so other people can notice you. So now all the people that you always wanted to notice you, now you have no use for that person. And that is a problem for me. A lot of people are using, manipulating, bamboozling, lying, cheating, doing all this stuff to people that they don't even deserve. People that are genuinely good people. The way y'all base relationships based on sex, based on what somebody look like. But not who that person is and not who their character is. And then when that person show you who they are, majority of the time, y'all don't even want to believe them. And then you be like, you're not the person that I was in a relationship with in the beginning. Of course not. They've either changed or they never were. But either way it goes, y'all got to stop living in these fantasy worlds, honestly. Because if you don't learn that relationships are partnerships, relationships are about respect, and they're about seeing a person for who they truly are, not what you want them to be, y'all gonna be in some serious trouble. With that being said, happy Monday.